I've always said that Jiu Jitsu is a microcosm of life. It's a proxy for life. It's not real life, but the lessons that we learn in Jiu Jitsu through the challenges and the struggles we face on the mat are eminently applicable to the rest of our life if we're willing to learn those lessons and apply those lessons. So the question is, what are those lessons? Well, let's talk about it. Hey guys, I'd like to invite you to train Jiu Jitsu with me in Costa Rica this December. I'll be running an all-inclusive training camp at a beautiful resort in Nocera, Costa Rica. 5 nights, 4 days of training. We're going to do a deep dive into the principles of efficiency, leverage, and control with both classic Jiu Jitsu techniques and modern no-gi grappling techniques. I was in Costa Rica last December and it stands as one of the highlights of my life, and it's one of the best times of year to go down there. This is an amazing trip to share with a training partner from back home, or you can bring your +1 for an unforgettable romantic getaway. This one's gonna fill up fast, so don't wait to start packing your swim trunks. For more information, just visit my website, rickellis.com, and click the events tab, and I will see you in Costa Rica. The first lesson I consider the foundation of everything, and that's acceptance. You show up to class on your very first day as a new white belt, and you are going to have a lot of failure initially. It doesn't matter if you were a star athlete in some other discipline. It doesn't matter if you've always been good at things. Nobody's good at Jiu Jitsu at first. And if your ego is such that it can't allow you to accept that this is where you are, and look, I've seen it many times, then you're not going to last in Jiu Jitsu. The truth is, you are no better than you are. You simply are who you are. And the flip side of that is you're no worse than you are. I've seen that part of it tear people up as well. You don't do very well in Jiu Jitsu. Maybe you've been training for a few months or even a few years, and you leave the academy feeling like you didn't perform up to this imaginary expectation that you hold yourself to. And that roller coaster ride where one day you feel great about yourself, the next day you feel terrible about yourself, that will just eat you alive. What you want is a neutral ego. You have to suppress that ego every time you train. Even as a black belt, I still have to destroy the ego every time I train. We all want to represent our belt perfectly. We all want to do great. But the truth is, you are only as good as you are. You're no better. You are no worse. And that is something that if you take into the rest of your life can allow you to see yourself truthfully for who you are, realistically for who you are, not to beat yourself up, but to give yourself a starting point for achievement. You will never go past your limits if you can't even accept your current limits. And so that is a lesson from Jiu Jitsu that is eminently applicable to the rest of our life. Jiu Jitsu will teach you to embrace failure. If you're not okay failing, you will never last in Jiu Jitsu because failure is baked into the Jiu Jitsu cake. Throughout your Jiu Jitsu journey, you will have far more failure than you will have success. With training, with time, with dedication, that ratio will start to shift and eventually you'll have much more success than you have failure. But it doesn't matter even if you're a killer black belt. There will always be guys that are better than you. There will always be physical challenges based on your physical reality that maybe someone else doesn't have to deal with. There will always be points of failure. And why is it important to embrace failure? Because number one, failure builds character. Failure builds character. It's harder to fail than it is to succeed. Failure will also teach you far more than success will. There's an old expression in competition, you either won or you learned. That's very true. If you win the match, what's there to learn? You were the best one. On the other hand, if you failed, well, that gives you something to work on. You have to go back, study, do some study, figure out why you got armbarred and what you can do to prevent it next time. And so understanding that failure is good. Problems are good. Problems means that there's potential for growth. If you have no problems, as the saying goes, you really have a problem. And so accept that you're going to fail and be okay with it, because that's where growth lies. And if you can internalize that and apply it to your business, your career, your school, your relationships, everywhere else, knowing that you will fail in life. I have failed plenty in life. I've had lots of successes, but I've had plenty of failures too. And it's okay, because you will learn more from the failures, and ultimately that's the path that's going to bring you to a greater level of capability and competence. So failure is something that you can apply to the rest of your life. If your goal is to master Jiu Jitsu, well, there's a prerequisite to that, and that is consistency. You have to train with consistency in order to make sustained progress over a long period of time. Jiu Jitsu forces you to play the long game. It teaches you patience to go with that consistency, because there's no instant gratification in Jiu Jitsu whatsoever. Everything is earned and everything takes time. And that's the lesson of consistency that Jiu Jitsu will teach you, because it's easy to get motivated and come out of the gate strong and, go for your goal, whatever that is. Maybe you want to get fit, maybe you want to do this or that. It's easy to be motivated for a month or two, but can you be consistent over a long period of time? Aristotle said that excellence is not an act. Excellence is a habit. And it's a very interesting choice of words, because a habit, by its very nature, by its definition, is something that you do consistently. And so if you want to get good at Jiu Jitsu, you're going to have to train with consistency more than with intensity. I've always said that consistency is more important than intensity. You can have an incredible training session, you hammer hard, and you leave it all on the mat, you leave totally depleted. But now if you're too wrecked for the next 3 days to go back and train again, well, you did yourself a disservice. It's better to train with less intensity and more consistency. That's always going to yield nonlinear results, meaning you're going to get better and better and better over time. And so finding that perfect formula. And look, I know we all have busy lives. We all, sometimes you can train more, sometimes you can train less, but you can find consistency within that. Dan Gable, the great wrestling coach, said, if it's important, do it every day. And, very few of us can train Jiu Jitsu every day, but you can certainly keep your head in the game every day. You can watch YouTube, you can watch instructionals, you can think about your game, you can go to the gym and get it fitter. There's a lot of things that you can do restoratively or in an ancillary way to make your Jiu Jitsu better. And if you focus on being consistent with all of those things, you're going to find that your Jiu Jitsu is going to progress at a much faster rate than if you're not consistent. And that is a lesson that if you apply to the rest of your life, because we all have goals, we all have dreams, we all have aspirations, the magic sauce, the magic formula for achieving anything is being willing to do it with consistency. Grit is the ability to pursue very long-term goals with passion and perseverance. Grit, or you can think of it as discipline or determination, is a prerequisite to the consistency that we just talked about. If you don't have a certain internal resolve, a certain discipline, a certain indomitable spirit in the face of struggles, then you will never be consistent. And listen, in Jiu Jitsu, there are always struggles. In fact, a lot of times we keep showing up night after night after night to train, and it feels like we're not improving. It feels like the battles we're waging are the same battles we waged yesterday. And in a sense, those battles never go away. That feeling never really goes away. Why? Because everybody is improving. And when everybody's improving, when the tide lifts all boats, you can't look to the other boats to judge how high the tide is. You have to look at a fixed object, the shoreline. And in the case of jiu-jitsu, you have to look at the old you, knowing that you would destroy that guy even with a month of training. And so developing that grit is a foundational, necessary ingredient in becoming good at jiu-jitsu and being consistent at jiu-jitsu. Mike Tyson said that discipline is the willingness to do the things that you hate to do with as much passion and enthusiasm as the things you love to do. Imagine what your life would be like if you did everything you needed to do, whether you loved it, whether you hated it, you did it with the same level of enthusiasm. Imagine how positively it would impact your life. And jiu-jitsu is a perfect place to practice that because the struggles are real. And so developing that grit, that consistency, that determination to just keep putting one foot in front of the other, even during those times when it feels like you're walking through the mud wearing boots, that will serve you very, very well in the rest of your life. There's an old expression, adapt or die. I think it was Shanji Hibeto who said the person that wins in jiu-jitsu is the one that was able to adapt most effectively. And so adaptation is something that has to happen in jiu-jitsu. Most fundamentally, the adaptation, the physical adaptation to even being able to do the sport, and even a mental and emotional adaptation to what we're experiencing on the mat, because jiu-jitsu has a dynamic aspect to it. It can be chaotic, it can be unpredictable, it can be very, very intense. There can be pressure when you train jiu-jitsu. And what you have to do is in those moments, there's always windows of opportunity that open and close. Sometimes they're microscopic, sometimes they're nearly imperceptible, sometimes they're very big. And those are constantly in play when we train. And it's being able to operate within those windows of opportunity, making the correct decision in that moment, which requires calmness. It requires the ability to dynamically problem solve. It requires the ability to do well under pressure. And all of those things will allow you to adapt and to be successful in the game of jiu-jitsu. And I think that adaptation is something that in the real life is very, very important, regardless of what it is that you're doing, whether it's business, your relationships, whatever. Learn to adapt quickly and efficiently to an ever-changing reality, and it will serve you well. Jiu-jitsu will definitely make you tougher. What is toughness? It's the ability to be put under pressure, maybe extreme pressure, and be totally okay with it. You are comfortable with discomfort. Comfort is the enemy of achievement. Floyd Mayweather said, it's really hard to get up at 4 a.m. to go run when you're sleeping in silk sheets. And that's absolutely true. You reach a level of affluence, a level of comfort, well, there goes your motivation to do anything. And so you want to keep yourself a little bit hungry, and you want to keep yourself in a place where you are okay with discomfort. And in fact, you get fueled by that discomfort. All toughness is ultimately mental toughness. Right? Yeah, you need to train your body, you need to be physically adapted to whatever you're doing, but ultimately it's the mind that is either tough or not tough. And that's what you need to train to be not only okay with discomfort and pressure, but actually fuel itself through discomfort and pressure. I think it was Jordan Peterson who said that it's not enough to have a goal that's way out there somewhere. You need some pressure pushing you from behind to help propel you toward that goal. So there's a yin and a yang there, the duality of the goal that's pulling you and the pressure to succeed, the pressure to make it, the pressure because your bank account is running dry, the pressure that pushes you toward that. And so in Jiu Jitsu, again, because it's a microcosm of life, you will experience all those situations where you have to rise to the level of the pressure that's being applied toward you, and using that pressure to rise above and to succeed in a jiu-jitsu context. And if you can master that, and if you can become resilient and mentally tougher to withstand all that, that's definitely going to give you some skills that you can apply in your real life. So those are the life lessons that I think Jiu-Jitsu teaches. Now it's your turn. Let me know below if I missed anything, or are there any elements of Jiu-Jitsu which you found to be really applicable to the rest of your life? And I look forward to hearing that below, and I look forward to talking to you next time.